I started from the beginning all the time when I built a new application. And I did all these things again and again and again and wasted days on doing that. I thought, okay, it has to be easier because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. So I tried to build something that is generic enough so that I could reuse it on other projects, but saves me a lot of time. And then I realized, okay, maybe that is something that is interesting for other people because they probably have the same problem.
Hey, this is Brian, and you're listening to Jamstack Radio, a bi-weekly series where we discuss modern web development with maintainers, founders, and developers. Jamstack Radio is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. For more information, visit heavybit.com. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at Jamstack Radio. Welcome to the installment of Jamstack Radio. On the line, we have Jonathan Wilke. Thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to have you on the show. Do you want to introduce the audience to who you are? Who's Jonathan?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm Jonathan, and I am a full-stack developer from Germany. And I'm also the founder of Supastarter, which is probably one of the topics we're going to talk about today. And I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So you're a full-stack developer. Did you go to school or did you work as an engineer prior? How'd you sort of pick up the trade?
Both, actually. I studied something related to computer science, basically a combination of computer science and graphic design. So that's a very good base, actually, for web development because you get both sides. And then I have been working for now 4 years as a full-stack developer. Currently, I am a software architect as a full-time job and doing Supastarter as my side project. So trying to grow a little indie hacker project there.
Excellent. I mean, I guess let's talk about Supastarter. I had seen it on Twitter. You had reached out after I already was aware of it. So I was super pleased to reach out and invite yourself on the podcast, which folks, if you want to invite yourself on the podcast, hit us up, Jamstack Radio on Twitter. But yeah, please tell us what Supastarter, what's the elevator pitch?
Now, there are basically two answers to that question because one is what it currently is and one is what we're currently working on pivoting it into. The first thing is what it is right now. It is basically a starter kit, a starter template or boilerplate for SaaS applications. So it saves you time when you start a SaaS application because it's code base that has all that basic functionality already included, like authentication, internationalization, mail templates, billing and subscriptions and so on. And so you can save that time building that or reinventing the wheel because that's basically everything just is there and you just have to pass in your credentials. And the second part is what we're currently building it into because it's not going to be only that starter template, but rather a ecosystem of products around getting you to start your SaaS faster and easier. So we're expanding the boilerplate that it currently is to more ecosystems like the Vue ecosystem with Nuxt and also later on a mobile starter template. And also all the tools you need around starting a SaaS, like templates for a landing page, ready to use components and all that stuff, just to make it a much easier for you to build and code your SaaS.
Yeah, I want to move into the ecosystem, but before we jump into that, I want to talk about why did you build this?
No, actually, it was out of my own need because I run a small indie hacker company, or basically I'm a freelancer where we do client projects. And like I started from the beginning all the time when I built a new application. And I did all these things again and again and again and wasted days on doing that. I thought, okay, it has to be easier because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. So I tried to build something that is generic enough so that I could reuse it on other projects, but saves me a lot of time. And we did that for our own project. And then I realized, okay, maybe that is something that is interesting for other people because they probably have the same problem. And then I just put it online. And actually, it was just an experiment. Like in the beginning, I didn't really think about making much money. So personally, I said, when this thing makes me $1,000, this is a really big success. And then suddenly people started buying it and started especially giving feedback on it. And then from there on, that just took off. And right now we have like over 60 or nearly 70 indie hackers and companies using Supastarter for their business or to start their business. And we're really excited where we can take this.
Yeah, and like the current ecosystem, so I see that Supastarter, like it's made up of Next.js and Supabase.
Yeah.
What other options are there? I guess we could talk about today, and then we could talk about what's coming too as well.
Yeah. Currently, it's all around a very serverless focused stack with Supabase as the backend as a service. Like it's used for authentication and the database and also storage if you want to do that. And then, of course, Next.js as the front end and backend framework or the framework for the application. And then we have some tools pulled in there, like, Stripe for billing and some libraries for forums, internationalization, and stuff like that. And then it's hosted, or it's made basically to be hosted on Vercel because that works perfectly with Next.js. So everything works serverless. Like you can scale the application to millions of users without having to do anything and without having to manage any servers. And this is where I think the real power of this and all this Jamstack and serverless stuff comes into play, because now you're actually able to build an application for thousands or millions of users as one individual. Like in the early days, you had to be able to manage your own service, know what Nginx is, and that stuff. You never were really secure because, you had to do DevOps and database management and all that stuff. And nowadays you can just use your graphical UI for, setting up your database, connect your Next.js front into it and put that on Vercel and everything's there and working great.
Yeah. And it's like so I've been doing this for quite some time, and I've seen like so I started around like the Ruby on Rails days is when I actually professionally became an engineer. So we saw very similar structure where you had these templates and you could generate based on server-side rendered applications that were running in Ruby, and Django was Python, and there was also obviously some Node stuff as well back in the day. And then we saw this sort of separation of concerns, which is why we have this show called Jamstack. And what's exciting about this is that you're able to get people like hit the ground running as fast as possible, but like your focus on serverless infrastructure and technologies is also pretty valuable, because then you don't actually have to pay, especially if it's a SaaS that's just getting started. So you mentioned like 60 or 70 folks. Yeah. Like even your project's just getting started. So you're not paying for tons of infrastructure costs for less than 100 users. Like now you can get product market fit. And when you hit that product market fit, you can actually maybe take in way more revenue to be prepared to when you do have to reach for a server, or not even a server. Like exactly. I think with folks like Clerk and actually even Supabase, they have a very expressive free tier. So until you hit 1,000 or 5,000 on Clerk, I don't know. Supabase does, I think it's 8 terabytes or 8 gigabytes. I don't remember what the actual limit is before you have to call them and get an enterprise plan, but it's up there.
Yeah. I actually wrote an article on how to start your SaaS with this stack for free. Like when you have all the free tiers, you can completely run that and get product market fit before you actually have to pay anything. So that's a really cool thing about these services.
Yeah, and this is it's a common movement too as well, because I don't know if you mentioned indie hackers. Are you part of the indie hacker movement?
Yeah.
Okay, and like this is in particular like I know there's like a place where you can sort of showcase your work.
Yeah,
can you explain like the indie hacker community, like what that is?
Yeah, sure. So I think everyone has its own definition of what an indie hacker is, but for me, it's basically someone who tries to grow a business from zero, like many call that bootstrapping too, and not try to get funding immediately, but rather try to see what they can do as an individual and how they can scale this thing up slowly. And most of them do this with one very nice goal, which is to essentially get freedom to maybe leave their job and do this as a full-time thing. And an additional thing, or a very interesting thing about it, is this whole build in public movement. Like many of them, including myself, share their journey on platforms like Twitter or even the indie hacker community. And that includes things like, the learnings from the daily things that actually come up. Like for me, it's the first time that I actually have a business on my own. and do all that marketing stuff and communicate with customers and that stuff. And all the learnings of that I share on Twitter so that maybe other people can learn from that too. And it also includes things like, sharing the revenue, how things are going, maybe that actually revenue is decreasing or something, or what you do when it's decreasing to get back up and so on. And I think that's a very interesting thing because the people there are so supportive. It's incredible. They give you feedback on, I just posted the other day, here's the new landing page draft for Supastarter. What do you think about this? And they say, oh, yeah, we maybe put that a little bit differently. I think that's not so clear. And you basically get feedback for free from potential customers or often real experts in their area. And that's a very powerful thing and enables you essentially as an individual to start a business. And some of them make even very good money with that and were able to leave their jobs because of that.
Yeah. Having community part of like the onboarding process as developers, onboarding process as a founder, like that's pretty valuable. So like the platform of indie hackers I know exists. I don't spend a lot of time there because I don't consider myself an indie hacker. But there's a lot of folks that I've seen grow careers and like gain influence just based on the knowledge that they share, which is pretty powerful to like share your revenue publicly in a spreadsheet on Twitter. And I think I know it's Levels.io.
He's one of the big guys.
yeah, he's like one of the OGs that I remember. Sort of like, I don't know if he started the movement, but he started the sort of build a new project every month for a year.
Yeah,
and like one of the most popular ones was the Nomad list, which actually I never used it to like go to a country, but I would use the list just to see what it's like out there.
Yeah,
but yeah, just like having an idea and like seeing if it works. So like if you have a SaaS idea or if you're working for customers or clients, it seems like pretty paramount to have structure to, again, hit the ground running and deploy projects. So that way you can have multiple clients and customers, but then you also have a framework to go debug applications and understand where the industry is moving as far as like technology goes. So like having your boilerplate, I see on your site, you offer, there's a price associated to it. So what are folks getting when you pay for it? And is it only a paid template?
Yes, it is. It's only a paid template. And what they get is basically they get access to the repository so they can use the code for as many projects as they want. They will get updates like typical things like package updates, maintenance, bug fixes, and also new features. And that's what we're currently heavily working on to bring new features, new modules to this boilerplate. And they're also getting support out of it. We have a private Discord channel where we are all the developers in there who use Supastarter for the SaaS. They are very active in there. They exchange about problems, about ideas. And, if there are bugs or if someone needs support, of course, I as the main maintainer are there to help them.
Very cool. So I imagine that the repo itself is closed source. Like, how do you handle the licensing? Yes. I'm curious about the licensing for like starter kits and software. Are you using like packages or?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting thing because I've been asked by others who want to do the same thing. They said, okay, I have a starter template here that I want to sell, but I don't know how to do it, or I'm afraid that if I just put it inside a private repo, then someone's going to share that code. And of course, that is a fear that I can understand and a danger that is actually there. But so far, I've made very good experience with that because people are just, they know what they pay for because for them, it's a very valuable thing. And they don't just give it to anyone else because they would be probably stupid to just give that away for free. But yeah, like there is no guarantee that your code is not shared by anyone.
Yeah, this is true. And there's what you're offering is a secret sauce for folks to get started quickly.
Yes. And
have maybe if you're also an indie dev, you don't have a full team for folks to maintain dependencies and keep things up to date. Yeah. So if you secure yourself by purchasing the template and having that maintenance included as part of the process, then you're able to go and start multiple projects without the fear of, man, I have to maintain 20 different clients. And if the template itself or the libraries get a bug, you have to go and ship the same update and license in 20 different places. So I guess I see where the value is coming from.
And you mean you have to, for most of them, it's an investment. Like they think it's currently the price is 300 euros. And like when you think about the usual hourly rate for a web developer, that's not even 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for most of them, that's more of worth it. So
yeah. And have you used Remix in the past?
No, I'm really sad I haven't, but I actually want to do it. And when I get some more time after the big refactoring currently, I was also going to look into Remix and maybe offer a version for that too. And I think some of the, or most of the parts could actually be reused, like all the components, because Remix is also built on React. You could reuse most of the components there.
Yeah, I bring up Remix because Remix had a similar model where it was a paid license to use Remix, the actual framework itself. I share this because I worked at GitHub when Remix launched, and Remix is one of the folks that they reached out, the GitHub packages team reached out to, because instead of worrying about your code basically floating around in private repos everywhere, if you attach it to a GitHub package and you get access to the GitHub packages and share licenses that way, it was a thing that the team explored, the Remix team got on board. And then a year later, they open sourced it. And I think at that point they took funding, so they open sourced their project instead. Yeah. But it'd be interesting, like if there was in the same, like probably another podcast in the future, or another sprint for you. But there's probably a way to distribute licenses in software in a way to provide templates. Because I know the Tailwind team, the UI template library as well, that was a paid license software as well. I think they were doing it very similar to what you're doing. Yeah. So they never had like the sophisticated management of licenses and access. Yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
For now, I'm actually fine, but you're right that might be a good thing to look into in the future, to have that a little bit more secured. But what we're also thinking about is to bring those, not everything into one code base, but actually more into modules. And so we sell individual modules. And so you just get access to the modules that you want and have the code base in there. But what I'm curious about is how do they then license this code, which you basically have on your disk? Yeah. How do they secure that?
I don't actually remember the license they use in Remix in particular, because I think they've moved to something, whatever Express, that they got acquired by Shopify. So they're in a whole nother journey. Yeah. But yeah, there's some clever things I don't think a lot of people realize when it comes to like GitHub and GitHub Enterprise. Like if you're an enterprise, you have access in tracking to see what happens on your software for every machine that's been cloned, which is why you would choose GitHub Enterprise. But then we have the self-hosted stuff. A lot of that's built into the software, which is, I don't want to call out specific companies that are customers of GitHub, but the idea is like, so I don't know the context of licensing software and distributing through packages. I think it's a problem like folks like NPM are solving. But as a engineering manager or a founder, you would choose like a GitHub Enterprise because then you could track or remote wipe software or basically updates. Yeah. So like GitHub Enterprise, you have to, you pay for the next update. And that's how software was, 15, 20 years ago. So in order to keep your code bug free, they have to come back and update from the latest version.
That's actually the case for Supastarter too, because like if you give the code away to someone who doesn't have access to the repository, he will get that state of the code. But of course, we push updates every few days or maybe bug fixes and so on. And those are, of course, not given to the users who just copy that code base. Yeah. So at least then in that point, we got a little bit security.
Yeah. And there's probably something here in this conversation. So like I'm coming out of the world of I'm running a VC-backed startup. Yeah. And it's like Supastarter is like, it's a very good idea for the indie hackers, but keeping the product up to date is actually probably a whole other startup. Yeah, exactly. And like a whole nother pipeline and solution. So But I feel like that could be a whole nother podcast. I do want to go back to the Supastarter. Like if there's anything else you wanted to mention about what you have on the roadmap, what's coming, I guess, coming down the pipeline that we haven't touched yet.
Yeah, so the latest things we're working on and very close to ship are two completely new versions of the boilerplate or starters template. One for Next.js. So that's a complete rewrite with the new app router and also more modular, so that you can basically that you're not that dependent on Supabase anymore. I mean, many of our customers really love Supabase and they want to have it included. And so you can, of course, use it if you want, but it will be that modular that you can easily switch out the database to use, I don't know, PlanetScale or a self-hosted database or whatever, because we use Prisma as our ORM. And the same boilerplate will be available for Nuxt. So we expand to the Vue ecosystem. And also, I'm preparing some templates, like single individual landing page templates that you can purchase independently of Supastarter. So that's where this whole ecosystem starts to grow slowly. I hope to launch them within the next week. So really excited to push something new there.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jonathan, and talking about Supastarter. I do want to transition us to picks. So these will be jam picks, anything that we've been basically jamming on, what gets us up in the morning. Mm-hmm. Could be music, food, technology related. Everything's on the table. And if you don't mind, I'll go first.
Sure.
I've got two picks. First pick is a book I've been reading. I've got folks on the team who are engineering, and I've moved away from full-time engineering to now be product lead, sales lead, customer success. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun because I get to now learn more about product and understand stuff that I've seen but never really paid attention to, like OKRs. Mm-hmm. So there's a book called Radical Focus. Mm-hmm. And it's all about how, what are the purpose of OKRs, where they came from, what are bad OKRs, how do you set up OKRs for success, and how do you keep the team on track and radically focused. So highly recommend anybody who's starting something, or if you work on a team and you're an engineer, it's probably great to, if you're big enough, think about how the work you do impacts the OKRs. So if you want to do a whole rewrite from JavaScript to TypeScript, or if you want to rewrite your CSS module, whatever, ask the question of how that impacts the OKRs. And if the OKRs, we could speed up development, that's a good key result to go with your objective, which is product market fit or whatever your objective is. But I've been inspired by this book, and I highly recommend people pick it up. Radical Focus.
Putting it on my reading list here.
Excellent. Yeah. Honestly, at your point where you are with your product, it would be super helpful, very valuable.
I mean, this is especially important for indie hackers, right? Because if you don't have a team, it's even more important to focus on certain things, and having the OKRs to actually see what is the most important thing you have to focus on right now is really valuable.
Exactly. The other thing I was going to mention is we have a Chrome extension for open source, which is my daytime job. It's been a fun little side project to build a Chrome extension. So search open source in the Chrome store. We're adding some extra features on GitHub, sort of like Refine GitHub is another project that's a Chrome extension. It's been fun I've actually never built a Chrome extension. I don't know, Jonathan, have you built a Chrome extension before?
Just a very, very basic one, just to see how it actually works. And it's actually very easy, right? It's just HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah.
So I expected it to be more complex.
Yeah. It's extremely rewarding because, it's just kind of how the web was 10 years ago. You just bundle it and you've got to index that HTML and then you got a manifest file to keep all your sort of title and avatars and stuff like that. And pretty straightforward. Currently working with 2 interns for the summer at Open Source, and we've already built the extension. Now we're just adding fun stuff like AI to it. So cool. Going to do some pretty cool stuff with our data and putting it on the page.
AI is everywhere.
You have to try it. It's
By the way, also interesting to notice, we are also have a AI integration in work by a friend of mine. So that's coming to Supastarter too.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, AI has become the fun weekend project. I question how many of these AI startups will be around in a couple years. Yeah. But for having enhancing the experience for your customers and developers, definitely worth trying out. It'll be around. Yeah. It might be super expensive though in the next year.
Probably, yeah.
Cool. You have any picks for us?
Yeah, I have one nice pick, which is related to the topic we've been talking about a lot, which is indie hacking. And it's a book, one of my favorite books on that topic by one of the most popular guys in the business, which is Arvid Kahl. His podcast is called The Bootstrap Founder, but the book is called Zero to Sold.
Okay.
Yeah, very good book. And I've learned a lot from that, so I can only recommend that to everyone who wants to start their own journey.
Excellent. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing your journey with us. And for folks who want to start their journey, check out the podcast. Check out Supastarter too as well. I definitely was trying a lot of these templates and these other tools a couple years ago when I was building a bunch of side projects during the pandemic. And yeah, for someone who wasn't day-to-day coding for my previous day job, I was doing developer relations. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to keep up to date and up to speed, and this would try something pretty quickly, like Remix and stuff like that back in the day. So I will keep this on my list of things to try, and hope folks that are listening will do the same and keep spreading the jam. That's all we have time for today. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter @Jamstack Radio. This show is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. To learn more about Heavybit, visit heavybit.com.